Hey, everybody, fellow voters, fellow citizens, good day, good day. It is voting day in the United States. I know we have viewers, listeners, followers from 189 countries worldwide, but in this country today, it is a big, contentious election. And this is not our election coverage. This is just a quickie because, I don't think we're going to know very much today. We had planned to do election coverage tonight, but again, we are going to wait and do an election recap tomorrow night. Now, who knows what we'll even know tomorrow? Maybe we'll have to postpone that one. In these crazy times, this could be tied up in the Supreme Court for weeks. Who knows what will happen? Who knows what will happen? But it will sure be interesting. I hope you went out and voted, and I hope you went out and voted against Joe Biden, who is a complete idiot and unfit to be president. And I'm not saying Trump is the greatest guy in the world, but I understand why people don't like him. It's clear, right? But I understand why people like him too, because he has he's kind of kept his promises, which is a super rare thing. Whether you like his promises or not, it is a super rare thing as a president. But just thought we'd dive into a couple things. This is an intro for our podcast. The full podcast will be posted in about an hour or so. But I thought in the intro portion, I would share a few things with you and might as well just go live to share this stuff. But again, tomorrow, our full election recap is planned for 5 p.m. Pacific time, 8 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow night. Hopefully, we'll know who the president is by then. But if not, we're certainly going to know about some of these crazy ballot initiatives in my former home state for most of my life, the Socialist Republic of California. Yeah. And boy, there's some crazy stuff on the ballot in California. And, why is that important? You might be thinking, Jason, I don't live in California. I don't care about California. Folks, as California goes, so goes the nation. Things that happen in California tend to be contagious. Why is that? Well, because the government in California, when they can get away with something, other governments who are hungry for tax dollars, they look around and say, "Wow, this passed in California. Maybe we can pass a watered down version of it here." We realize we're not a crazy state like California, but maybe we can get some additional tax revenue. And so it is important. And remember something: love it, hate it. It is if it were a country. And again, I am not crediting the current California regime for this at all. In fact, it's much to their discredit. But there was a time decades ago when California was the Golden State, when it was the place where people would go for opportunity, where the streets were lined with gold, where opportunities were made, where dreams came true. And it has ridden and milked that reputation for so many decades. But the benefits and the reality of that disappeared a long, long time ago. But again, living somewhere is a sticky situation. People don't just get up and move that easily, right? It took me 15 years to get out of California. So understand this is important stuff. It is important stuff. And so a lot of that stuff will be apparent tonight or tomorrow as to what happens with some of these crazy ballot initiatives. Also, we're going to know, who takes the Senate tonight, probably, and that's going to be super important. Most people focus on the presidential election, but hey, uh, Congress as a whole, I'm talking about, both sides, right? Um, that's where the bills come from, right? The House Ways and Means Committee, that super powerful committee, that's where all your tax increases come from. Now, the president gets a chance to veto things, obviously, but it's not just about the president. There's a lot more to it than just the president. Just that's one branch of government we have, thank God in this country, we have this balance of power, right? This checks and balances system. We have three branches of government. We have the executive, the judicial, and the legislature. So we got a Supreme Court. Trump just pushed through his pick, and that was great, right? We saw that just what, last week or the week before, and now if the Democrats win, they want to pack the Supreme Court. They want to take it from 9 justices to 13 justices, just so they can have their picks on the Supreme Court and get what they want. That is absolutely absurd. Let's hope that never happens, because it's completely ridiculous, of course. And I say this regardless of what side of the political aisle you're on, folks. You got to just remember that there there is a I don't know. I think it's just long past our culture. Nowadays, sadly, everybody's just out for whatever they want, whatever they can get. It's awful. It's awful. What happened to uh, I say to my podcast listeners all the time, I say, you must watch old movies. You must watch old TV shows. You must read old books, and you must listen to old music to see how screwed up the world has become. And, listen, in a lot of ways, the world is better than it used to be, but in a lot of ways, it's really worse. So it's a mixed bag, obviously. But to gain perspective on how things used to be, you must consume old media. When I say old, I mean 20 years ago, 30 years ago. Watch some movies from the 70s and the 60s. That wasn't that long ago, folks. Okay. I'm not talking about reading books from 1850. All right. I'm not talking about reading books from when Gutenberg invented the printing press. I'm just talking about, stuff from a couple decades ago when you were probably alive. Look at how much the world has changed. It helps spark your memory, right? It helps you remember how things used to be. And that is very important. There used to be a sort of um, a decency to things, but sadly, so much of that has gone away in the world in which we live. But it's not all bad. There are a lot of things that are much better now than they used to be. So it's a mixed bag, right? It's definitely mixed. All right, let's jump into a few things here, and then I will let you go. First off, remember, speaking of old things, remember Johnny Carson? This is from 1987. Johnny Carson talking about one of our presidential candidates, and it's interesting to get this insight from 1987 about one of the people you may have voted for today or recently. Let's listen in.
Now, on the political scene, one of the Democratic candidates is Senator Joseph Biden. Have you seen the problem he's been having? He went around and made a speech, and apparently he quoted I think it was a British politician, took his speech and kind of paraphrased it as his own. And then the press got on him, and then he was charged also with taking part of Bobby Kennedy's speeches. And Biden says, not to worry, he reassured his staff. He said, we have nothing to fear but fear itself.
Oh, that was pretty funny. So Biden, the plagiarist. And hey, hopefully you watched Tucker Carlson last week. Tucker Carlson really is a national treasure. I mean, that guy is brilliant. He is the most brilliant guy in the media, no question about it. Tucker Carlson. Really interesting. But hey, thought we would look at history a little bit too, and look at the chart on the screen, and let's look at the winning margins in some past presidential elections, right? So in 2016, everybody thought Hillary would win, right? The criminal known as Hillary Clinton. They thought she would win. She thought she would win. She thought it was a shoe-in because she'd been around the political establishment. Here comes this outsider, Donald Trump, and just totally shakes things up. I understand that, half of you hate him, half of you love him. There isn't much middle ground, it seems like, with Trump. But whatever. Listen, when you're a disruptor, when you shake things up, you're gonna have a lot of haters. And throughout history, if you think about it, I mean, there were people that hated Martin Luther King, they hated Jesus Christ, they hated Mahatma Gandhi. You know, disruptors are hated, okay, whoever they are, right? And there's that old saying, no prophet is ever revered in their own time, right? And I'm not saying Trump's a prophet. I'm just saying conceptually, understand, be intellectually honest about it, that a disruptor has to encounter a lot of opposition, a lot of hatred. You know, anybody that fights for new rights, that wants to, eliminate the deep state or drain the swamp. And I know you that hate Trump will say, he didn't drain the swamp, he made it worse. I've heard it all, right? We've all heard it all. But regardless, okay, so let's just look. You need 270 electoral votes to win. We'll see what those delegates do tonight, and we'll see if the ballots get counted fast enough. I don't know. I don't think we're going to know tonight, but maybe we will. Maybe we will. And even if we do know, it's going to be contested, most likely. So we'll see. We'll see. But Trump won last time, of course, with 304. Obama won with 332. Obama was a disruptor. Look, I wasn't a fan of Obama. I thought Obama was, like an empty suit president. I didn't think he had any qualifications really at all. And you could argue that Trump doesn't or didn't at the time. Now he does because he's got experience now. But at the time he came in, he'd never been in politics, but he did know how to run a business. And I would say at the end of the day, a country is really sort of a giant corporation. Of course, it's different. Of course, there are humanitarian issues and other issues that a government needs to attend to that aren't just business. But like I posted on Facebook yesterday, mostly, and it's not completely, I get it. It's not completely. I didn't say this, but mostly the business of America is business. When business works and people have jobs and they have money and we have private property rights, that is inextricably connected to human liberty and human rights. When you read the philosophers from the past, uh, and the way they developed the thought about human rights and the idea that people just have natural inalienable rights because they exist, nothing earned, they just exist, so they have rights. And to obtain those rights, you must have private property rights. And for private property to exist, you must have the right to your own time and the fruits of your own labor. Without that, you do not have rights. So when I say the business of America is business, that's just true, because business is what gives people human rights. You don't have human rights in North Korea because you don't have business. You didn't have rights in the former Soviet Union because you didn't have business that wasn't the business of the state. It wasn't the private property of the people. In Cuba, you don't have human rights because you don't have, I mean, I know you do a little bit in all these cases, especially Cuba. There are some European companies and so forth in Cuba. I get it. But they're largely beholden to the state. And that old saying, I think, is really important. And here it is: the bigger the government, the smaller the citizen. The bigger the government, the smaller the citizen. It's that concept of crowding out in any marketplace for anything, in the marketplace for healthcare, in the marketplace for ideas, in the marketplace for widgets. there is a crowding out concept. Okay. This crowding out concept always occurs. And when you don't have um, human rights, when they get crowded out by the government, when you have the government controlling more and more of the economy, the citizen shrinks in importance and their rights shrink. It naturally must happen that way. So when the government is 20 some odd percent of the gross domestic product, the GDP of a nation, then the humans, the people, the citizens have 20% less rights because you don't have the recourse against a government the way you have it against business, in the idea that you can vote with your feet, you can vote with your wallet, you can vote with your pocketbook, right? Now, sadly, and don't confuse this, because the the big business we have in America is absolutely shameful. It's disgusting. The big tech monopolies, the Wall Street monopolies. I always say Wall Street is the modern version of organized crime. Why is there no startup culture on Wall Street? I'll tell you why. Because of government regulations. Wall Street is so highly regulated that the entrenched players on Wall Street love the regulation because it keeps their competitors out. It builds a wall. Everybody says, well, Trump would build a wall. Well, Goldman Sachs built a wall around their business. Okay. JP Morgan Chase built a wall around their business. And so they keep startups, they keep competitors out by building these walls of regulation. And the government, when they become a competitor, any government, right? When they get big and they make all kinds of regulations, all that does is guarantee a concentration of power for the already established players in that market. That could be Google, it could be, or Alphabet, I should say. It could be Facebook, it could be Amazon, it could be Goldman Sachs, it could be JP Morgan Chase, it can be Merrill Lynch, it can be anybody, right? The more regulated, the more the government gets involved, the more the big entrenched competitors get to consolidate power. You'll hear them on TV saying, oh, there's too much regulation. They grouse about it. But in reality, they secretly love it. They love the regulations. And listen, you've heard Mark Zuckerberg say it himself. And I got to give Mark Zuckerberg a little bit of credit, right? Usually I'll be critical of him, but I could give him a little bit of credit because, like Ted Cruz said last week at that hearing, where Jack Dorsey is just abusing freedom and democratic principles left and right, Zuckerberg, has made a small attempt to be a little more reasonable about the whole thing. Now, we'll see if it lasts or whatever. But anyway, that's that. So here you see Bush, W. He won with 286 and 271 in his two elections. And Reagan was a landslide. And, I think Trump's going to win. I think he's going to handily win, actually. And, it's very hard to say that because the media just keeps telling you that's not the case, like they told us in 2016. The media just keeps saying that, no way, Biden's going to win. He's ahead in all the polls, all this biased stuff. Well, let's take a look at that for a moment. So here are the newspapers and who they're endorsing for president. How could anybody possibly think that the media is like this impartial watchdog of justice, right? It's absolutely ridiculous. Like, if this doesn't tell you, okay, this is the American Presidency Project, okay? Who are America's newspapers endorsing for president in 2020? 2020 general election editorial endorsements by major U.S. newspapers. Joe Biden has got 47 of them. Trump only 7. Now, why? Well, Trump says he hates the media. And he's exposed the media and he's held them to the fire and he doesn't put up with their bullshit. Hey, I should bleep that. He doesn't put up with their bullshit. There's my bleep. Okay, this is an adult program. Yeah. So the media hates him, but you look at the rallies that aren't covered very much by the most of the media. I mean, a little bit. You look at the rallies and you compare them to the Biden rallies, and you just, I mean, I don't know, folks. It seems like Trump is probably going to win in light of all this stuff. Now, you know what was really interesting? That there was this right after the 2016 election. I was listening to none other than NPR. Okay, NPR, the most left wing liberal outlet, right? And somehow they let this in. You know, sometimes they don't censor what they really probably should be censoring for their own pathetic agenda. Okay. But I'm listening to NPR, which I occasionally do because I want to know what the devil is up to. And they go to Michigan and they go to this county that has voted Democrat forever, like for decades and decades and decades. And the NPR reporter, is interviewing people. Why did you, why do you think the county went for Trump this time when it's been Democrat historically? And and they put a microphone in front of a woman who voted for Trump, and the reporter says, why did you vote for Donald Trump? I mean, everybody's pretty much a Democrat here. And she said something really telling. I thought this was really telling, and we'll see if that plays out here tonight in 2020. She said, you know, all we heard is Hillary Clinton talking about identity politics and this and that. And, she insulted us and called us the flyover states and all this kind of stuff. And, and just kept talking about identity politics. And at the end of the day, we just want a job. We just want a job. Why? Why is that significant? Is that because that woman saying that, who was a lifelong Democrat, who turned and voted for Trump, uh, was she, was she out of her mind? No, she understood that a job is the foundation of human liberty. A job, the right to one's time, the right to the fruits of one's labors, the personal property rights that go with that. That's human liberty. That's the main ingredient right there. The right to earn an income and pursue, life liberty, and to have life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, right? That is human liberty in essence, right there. A job, the opportunity to have a job. And so yeah, there you go. We'll see if that happens this time. Okay. I'll probably do this one tomorrow. I got some great clips for you. Well, let me do a little bit of this one. We'll do maybe the rest tomorrow. But listen to this commentator, Steve Hilton, talking about the Trump presidency. And I think he gives a pretty fair and balanced idea of it. Okay. But, it's just, hey, facts are facts. You're not entitled to your own facts, right? As they say.
Let's start by going back 4 years.
I'll be the greatest jobs president that God ever created.
Well, he was. He delivered the highest number of people working in American history, the lowest unemployment in 50 years, the lowest for women in nearly 70 years, the lowest Black, Hispanic, and Asian unemployment ever.
The forgotten men and women won't be forgotten anymore.
They weren't. For the first time in decades, earnings rose faster for the lowest paid than the rich. Under Obama, inequality went up. With Trump, it came down. By the end of last year, 3/4 of the people entering the labor force were coming off the sidelines, the highest since records began.
To keep our country out of war, we will remember those three very famous words: peace through strength.
Trump is the first president since the 1970s not to start a foreign conflict. Our troops are coming home from the Middle East. Our military power has been massively...
Hey, liberal friends, do you hear that? Trump is the first president since the 70s not to start a foreign conflict. Hey, remember, you're the flower children of the 60s, right? Peace, right? Give peace a chance. Trump is the president of peace compared to all the rest, Republicans and Democrats before him. He's the peace president. None of these awful wars.
Enhanced. Trump defused the North Korea nuclear crisis he inherited. He's achieved peace deals in the Middle East that eluded his establishment predecessors. Yeah, I think peace through strength just about covers it.
Our horrible trade agreements with China and many others will be totally renegotiated. That includes renegotiating NAFTA to get a much better deal for America.
That's literally what he did. He put tariffs on China. He renegotiated NAFTA to produce the USMCA, the most pro-worker trade deal ever. Global supply chains were reconfigured. Jobs came back to America.
And Clinton, by the way, that our liberal friends liked so much, he's the one that sold your job down the river. Clinton, now listen, Bush wasn't much better, okay? I'm just on balance. But Clinton was the guy who really put the nail in the jobs coffin in America and just sold us out, okay, in terms of American jobs. It all rests on Slick Willie Bill Clinton. Now, Bush, they're all globalists except Trump. He's the only non-globalist, right? But Clinton was the worst offender in terms of the suppression of wages in America, the job losses. I mean, absolutely appalling. Clinton really, really screwed American workers like no other.
Household earnings rose and inflation stayed low. The globalists were wrong and Trump was right.
I will produce for the inner cities, and I will produce for the African Americans.
Opportunity zones with billions of dollars of new investment for urban areas, record funding for historically black colleges, criminal justice reform to reverse the destruction of Joe Biden's crime bill. The only federal action on police reform after George Floyd, while Kamala Harris blocked police reform in the Senate. All that on top of the lowest black unemployment ever, the lowest black poverty ever, and a massive rise in average income for black families.
A Trump administration will secure and defend the borders of the United States.
Catch and release terminated. The wall nearly finished. Asylum seekers remain in Mexico. Caravans turned back thanks to the threat of tariffs. The result, illegal border crossings down, gangs under attack, immigration under control.
We are going to appoint justices of the United States Supreme Court who will uphold our laws and our Constitution.
Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, Barrett. Moving on.
I am also going to propose a massive tax cut to unleash prosperity in every city and every state in our country.
The Trump tax cuts gave the average family an extra $2,000 a year and reduced our business taxes from among the highest in the developed world to one of the lowest. As a result, companies came back to America and investment boomed.
We'll get rid of these horrible regulations that make it impossible to do business in this country.
A massive program of deregulation led to higher investment, which boosted productivity, which increased workers' pay.
Right there is the monopolization concept I was talking about earlier. The more regulation, the more of a wall it builds around the entrenched businesses. And when they have that wall around them and they have no competition, guess what? They don't have to raise wages. They don't have the pressure of the labor market. They don't have the pressure of, providing the best product for the customer at the lowest price. It's just unbelievable. Yeah, it really is.
Deregulation helped
By the way, as he's talking, I'll pop some of these comments on the screen. I'm not going to address them. I'll just pop them up so you can read them. Oh, sorry. Darn it. Okay, let's go back here. I'll just move.
Let's start.
Okay.
Totally renegotiated.
Here.
Back thanks to the threat of tariffs. The result?
Regulations that make it impossible.
Here we are.
On defeating terrorism and destroying ISIS.
Our military leaders were given that focus. They were given operational control after years of second guessing by Obama-Biden. ISIS was destroyed, losing 100% of its territory. Get the picture? That's just a top 10. Has there ever been a president who delivered so many of his promises in so many policy areas as Donald Trump? Biden says, who cares? Coronavirus. What is he even talking about? Trump shut down travel from China in January. Fauci says that saved thousands of lives. Where's the highest death toll? New Jersey, run by Democrats. New York, run by Democrats. Republican Florida, no lockdown, no mask mandate, many more elderly people, much lower death rate. What's the best single thing any leader could do? Bring the pandemic to an end as quickly as possible. The only way is vaccines and treatments. Trump was on it right from the start. He brought the drug companies together, the military, the bureaucracy. Yes, he yelled at the FDA. If ever it was vital to have a businessman in the White House, this was the moment. If you'd had Biden there, we'd be waiting years for the vaccines, years for the treatments. The idiots in the media attack Trump for saying we're rounding the corner. But even the New York Times' own pandemic expert now says this, quote, experts are saying with genuine confidence that the pandemic in the United States will be over far sooner than they expected. Don't vote for Trump despite his pandemic response, but because of it. Just like the other big issue that's dominated this year, we've shown you Trump's record on racial justice. And yes, he'll bring law and order, but equally, he'll bring opportunity with his Platinum Plan for Black America, boosting community lending for Black entrepreneurs, millions of new jobs. Biden would shut down opportunity zones. Trump will expand them. Biden would abolish school choice. With Trump, there'll be more. Biden says he'll heal our racial divide. What? Mr. You ain't black, Mr. Predator, Mr. Crime Bill that destroyed countless black families and communities. On the issues, on the policy, Trump is the right choice. On the economy, he pioneered a new conservative populism, pro-business on tax and regulation, pro-worker on trade and immigration. It led to the greatest economy we've ever seen, a blue-collar boom, lifting up those left behind by the establishment economics Biden would take us back to. On foreign policy, perhaps Trump's most consequential achievement and greatest legacy, reversing decades of establishment surrender to confront China's rise. Biden says normalcy. For working Americans, normalcy is cruelty. They send your jobs to China, then go to China to get jobs for themselves. You get poorer, they get richer. Normalcy is career politicians like Biden and Harris, totally controlled by the bureaucrats and the administrative state. Biden says his tweets, we want calm. Calm? Biden's practically comatose, the feeble stooge of fighting factions and the far left. The snooty, snobby, superficial establishment want this election to be about style, not substance. Well, that may be fine for the already comfortable, but for Americans who are struggling, who want to climb the ladder of opportunity, try doing that with a Biden speech about the soul of the nation. On the substance, in any fair election, Trump would be resoundingly re-elected. But we don't have a fair election. NBC, ABC, CBS, CNN, NPR, New York Times, Washington Post, Facebook, Twitter, all of it, non-stop, wall-to-wall Biden propaganda, the alliance of bias, colluding to suppress information and suppress the Trump vote. They're the ones undermining our democracy. For 3.5 years, they plotted and schemed against President Trump from morning till night, and look what he was still able to accomplish. Now, they want to destroy Trump and his supporters, not because of policy or results or anything real, but because of their insane, irrational hate. Yes, there is the policy argument. Trump recovered.
Oh. Okay, folks, that's enough of that one. I hope you enjoyed it. I gotta go because I've got to get this to the producer. Tomorrow during the election coverage, we're going to talk. I got a bunch of charts for you to go over, okay? We're going to talk about, what Americans fear in the future in terms of what's coming up. possibly. This is interesting, though, because this is before the election, so we do need to talk about this one real quick. Republican satisfaction has been rising ahead of the election. Still nobody's that satisfied, so just keep it in context. But it's interesting, I mean, this is the only one that's like way up. I mean, the independents are, and by the way, I'm a registered independent. The independents are sort of flatlined. The Democrats down, came up a tad. I think adding Harris got them a little better off. And we're going to talk about the law enforcement powers because that's been a topic of the show lately. But hey, folks, we will see what happens tonight. Hopefully, we'll have some news. I may come back and join you tonight if we get any big news. But if not, it'll be tomorrow. And oh boy, still got some comments coming in here. Let me just and by the way, thank you for all the nice, kind words, everybody. David, thank you. I am not running for president. Not that I would win, or could even be a contender, but I'm not running. Okay, so just want control back of my properties. Yeah, I agree. You have taxpayers. Sold half my Seattle rentals. That was a good idea to sell those Seattle rentals because Seattle's a disaster. All right, everybody. If you didn't vote yet, go out and vote. Cast the right vote. Cast the vote for smaller government, meaning bigger citizens. The bigger the government, the smaller the citizen. Just rejoice in the fact that if you're listening to this, you probably live in a free country somewhere, okay, somewhere in the world, and you are lucky and rich, just right there, no matter what happens, and just remember, it's a lot of my conservative friends when Obama got elected the first time. They thought the country was going to go to hell in a handbasket. And I said to them, look, it takes a long, long time to destroy such a great country with the checks and balances that it has. So even if your candidate doesn't win, if you're senator, if you're president, if your propositions or referendums, whatever is true in your state, if it doesn't work out the way you want, just remember, you still live in a free country if you are watching this anywhere in the world. So congratulations for that. And I wish you all the best. And we will talk to you very soon. And happy voting and happy election watching. Talk to you later. Bye-bye, everybody.